Okay, the discoveries are continuing here on Fine Music. This is episode 363. We're going to the man with the music on his wall. You know who it is, Murray Tom.
Good afternoon, or whatever time you happen to be watching this. First, I'm going to apologize for missing last week, but I was experiencing the eclipse. I can't say I was watching it because it was extremely overcast here, but it was still a trip to experience. It was amazing. So today I am going to continue in my exploration of the 20 albums that influenced my musical taste the most. I have 4 albums to touch today, and they're all right here, and actually they all fall into my top 15 favorite albums. These 20 albums aren't necessarily my favorites, but they're the ones, like I say, that actually influenced my musical taste. The first 3 we're going to talk about, coincidentally or not, were all released in 1973. Which I never at the time thought was a great year for music, but looking back on it, since 3 of my absolute favorite albums came out that year, I guess it was. And the other thing that links them all is guitar. And that's what we're going to get to. When I first started listening to rock music, I was all about vocals and lyrics. And I think it was probably seeing 10 Years After in concert that first introduced me to be thinking about the guitar, because Alvin Lee, the lead guitarist for 10 Years After, at the time, early 70s, was known as the fastest guitarist in rock and roll. Of course, Eddie Van Halen pushed him out of that spot pretty quickly. But so I saw them and I squeezed up to the front to watch his guitar playing. I don't really know if I learned anything from it, but that started me thinking about guitar. And then this band is the one that really made me pay attention and really dig hard rock guitar. This is Tyranny and Mutation by Blue Oyster Cult. Their second album, lead guitarist Donald Buck Dharma Roser just blew me away with what he would do with guitar. And this album shifted my taste towards the harder side of rock. It's pretty intelligent hard rock. I mean, they had Patti Smith writing lyrics for them. They had Richard Metzer, who was a rock journalist, writing lyrics for them. So it wasn't, dumb slog kind of rock and roll. It was very intelligent, but it was built around that amazing guitar. The second album that I got introduced that year, which its main feature is not the guitar, but it has another guitarist that blew me away, a guy by the name of James Williamson. The album is Raw Power by Iggy and the Stooges. This one I picked up because I read a review in Rolling Stone, which it turns out was by Lenny Kaye, who ended up as Patti Smith's guitarist, in which he said, "Nobody does it better, nobody does it worse, nobody else does it, period." And I'm like, I need to get that album. And I can still remember, I brought it home, I put it on the turntable, Search and Destroy came out, and I was absolutely blown away by it. I'd never heard anything quite like that, never anything quite as hard, quite as fast, quite as snarling. It's quite crazy, and the whole album follows through on that. So this made me, follow up on the guitar thing. It's also, of course, my first introduction to what would become punk rock, and solidified a lifelong love of Iggy Pop. I think the best performer out there. So Raw Power by Iggy and the Stooges. Also coming out that year, even though I didn't really dive into it until a couple years later for various reasons, but Aladdin Sane by David Bowie, featuring Mick Ronson on the lead guitar. Again, one of my absolute favorite guitarists ever. The guitar work he does on this album is, again, astounding. He's got his own sound, his own tone to the guitar. And then you supplement that with Mike Garson on piano. And the piano on this album is also amazing, especially on the title track Aladdin Sane, but also on Time, Lady Grinning Soul, and of course it's David Bowie. I mean, you know, this is, in my opinion, his peak of genius. He, he's still playing around with the Ziggy persona, still going off in kind of sci-fi directions, but just putting out some of the best hard rock. So 1973 was a great year for hard rock and guitar. Okay, so those three albums really, like, it made me a guitar fan, made me fans of all of Iggy and Bowie and all. Now, the next one may seem out of place chronologically, but as I mentioned at some point, I'm listing these in the order that I was really exposed to them, not the order they came out. Another, you know, possibly the guitar god. For some reason, I never listened to this album till I was in college. And I got introduced to a lot of older music in college because I started meeting people who had huge record collections and stuff like the early Bob Dylan I never really paid attention to till I got into college. And another I remember is Derek and the Dominoes' Layla. I knew the song, of course, but never really listened to that album until in college. And Electric Ladyland by Jimi Hendrix. Like, just the guitar work on this is amazing. The variety on this, I mean, from a like 15-minute jam on Voodoo Child to the kind of pop songs on side two, Little Miss Strange, what else is on there? Come On, Gypsy Eyes, and then side three, 1983, A Merman I Should Be, which is an experimental, very proggy, long, I mean, it's a three-piece cut, but it's really all one tune about fascinating, you know, daydreaming about living in the ocean. And it's got all sorts of psychedelic sound effects on it. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't have the crazy guitar of Foxy Lady or Voodoo Child, but it just blew me away. It was like a different sort of musical experience. And again, now starting to push me towards that sort of experimentalism in music and taking things in different directions. So those are the next four albums. Those are albums 5 through 8 in the 20 most influential albums in my musical taste. And hopefully to give you some idea of how they influenced my taste.
All written down. Way to go. Thank you, Murray.